Sorry about that. This computer just ran out of space. Okay. Okay, we're all done here. Let's do something now that we did before as well. Let's use the command paint to apply some materials to these walls. If you remember, I mentioned before, we can always apply materials as a paint using that command that you find in the Modify tab up here, and then this one here, it's called Paint. So we can always use that command to apply materials to anything basically that is a system family. Like, for example, walls, floors, roofs, ceilings, stuff like that. However, we cannot use a paint command to apply material to any component family. For example, doors or windows. So let's go to a 3D view. And now you can see my model here with all my walls and doors, right? So I'm gonna use the paint command, and I'm gonna apply some material to the exterior of those walls, of the exterior walls only. But I wanna just show you what I mean when I say you can't apply paint to a door. Like if you see here, it won't let me because nothing becomes blue when I'm over the door. But when I'm over the wall instead, you see how this face of the wall becomes like have the perimeter in blue? That means that I'm able to paint it. Same with all the walls. But when I go to a door, that doesn't happen. So that means I cannot paint doors. And the same applies to windows or any component family, basically. Okay? So let's just apply some material to those walls. And when you're using the paint command, you always have this little window here open, and this is where you select the material that you want to apply as paint. So right now, I'm going to apply the brick common material right here. Hopefully you all have it. Yeah. You should all have that material. If you don't see that material, well, use any other. I don't really care. So I'm going to select the brick, and I'm going to apply it here. See how that face now became a different color? Or actually not a color, it just had like adopted the hatch, because that hatch is already in that material, in the brick common material. Do you want to ask any question, Rebecca?
That's fine.
Mm-hmm. Okay. So I'm gonna keep going and painting all these exterior walls. Does anybody have problems like rotating your model? Or you all guys know now how to do that?
I just have a question.
Sure.
How do I change the rotation center of the whole model?
The rotation center.
Yeah. Like when I
yeah, I think I know what you mean.
Like weird.
Yeah. To do that, that's something. You have to go to a plan view, like a floor plan, and then under Manage, there is a tab for location, position. Yeah, see here under Manage. Then here you have Project Location, then Position, or maybe. No, yeah. Let's try Position. I'm not exactly sure now, but I think if we go really okay. Say if we assign this point as a project. Yeah. But why did you guys wanted to do that? Just so that I know.
It's like
What's
every
happening
time
to
when I,
you?
Like
Huh?
rotate it, it's like
Mm-hmm.
it's really like hard to make it innocent. So it's like
Oh yeah. But you're doing it by holding the shift and this.
Yeah.
Yeah. I see what you're saying. Yeah, it's a good question, and it might be happening to all of you.
Or can you smooth or
Huh?
can you smooth or hold since choose the samples or
the project.
Yeah, but that's not. Does that help you? Yeah, I think you're doing it pretty well. So that might help for sure. But so it's under manage, position, and then no, you have to be on a plan view, and then you use the relocate plan. Okay, so let's go back here.
I got a question.
Yeah, sure. Go ahead.
Is that the painting is select from the modifier?
Yes, I'm gonna show you. Look at my screen.
Yep.
So you go to modify here, and it's this little command here with the sphere and the cube, and it's called paint. But you have two options. If you click on that arrow, you actually have the option of painting and remove paint. So if I select the remove paint, I can go and instead of applying the paint, I can just remove the paint. See?
I select the plane, but like the plane do not apply on the wall.
How is that possible? How do you know it's not applied on the wall?
Because it's like I take the plane and I come up with the browser with the material browser. I select the break command. And I click done.
Yeah.
And I
No. Okay, hold on. I think you're missing one thing here. So let's go back to here to the paint command. Select paint, and then you select the material here, but don't press done. You can't press done. You have to paint everything you want to paint, and once you're done painting, then you can hit done, or just hit escape. It's the same. Okay? Did that happen to anybody else? So remember, when you're painting, you always are going to have that window with all the materials in it. It's going to stay there unless you get out of a paint command. Okay? Alright, so I'm going to keep going here into actually class 3 exercise. Okay. So let's now insert our windows. But right now, I don't have the windows that I want to use for this project. So I'm gonna actually just create a new family for those windows. Okay? And we're gonna create the same family that we created in the previous class, right? So let's, if you guys, this time you can, if you want, just look at what I'm doing. Because I'm gonna leave you with an exercise today as homework to create another window family. So I don't think it's a good idea if you start trying to do the same thing that I'm doing. I just want you to kind of look how we work with families and how we create the families, and then you're gonna do a new family anyway. So let's just come here and create a new family. So we go to the application menu, new, and select family. And we wanna select a template for that family. which is going to be the window with trim template, right? You remember we did this already. So we want to model that family, and also we want, I believe, apply some parameters to it, right? So let's start by modeling the window. I'm going to go to the exterior elevation, which is this side here. See how it says exterior here? That means it's this side of the window, and this will be the interior side of the window. I'm going to go to the exterior elevation, and I already have the trim here. Here, so first thing, I'm going to save this family. And I'm going to save it this time. What should I name it? Anything, really. So we already have window, door. So I'm gonna call it let's just call it Windows 2 for now. I'm not gonna waste time. Okay. So I'm gonna start by modeling the frame of the window, and I'm gonna go to Create tab and select the Extrusion command this time. And before I start drawing the frame, I want to set the work plane that I'm going to be working on, which is going to be the reference plane center front to back. And this is a plane that's right in the center of that wall where the window is going to be. Okay, so now I can just draw my outside of the frame and then the inside of the frame, let's say. And I'm gonna say that that is gonna be 1 inch thick on every side. So every time you select a line here, you see some dimensions appear, and you could use those dimensions to place your lines where you want them to be. So I want this line to be 1 inch from this other line. So that's what that dimension is measuring. So I'm going to change it to 1 inch, right? And do the same here. But I can also move these dimensions to any other reference. For example, this one here. If I wanted to, I don't know, have this line 6 inches from this line here, then I can change it to that line and then type whatever I need. Alright, so those are called temporary dimensions, and they're just to help you modeling where you're modeling. Once you deselect it, they go away, right? So now I have my sketch for the frame. The next thing I have to do is type the extrusion end and extrusion start, which means how thick or how deep that frame is going to be. So it's always based on the work plane that I specified before, which is center front to back. So I want my frame to start, let's say, at -1 inch and end at 2 inches. Okay, what do you think the depth of that frame is going to be? 3, exactly. Because I'm going from -1 to 2, which is 3, right? Good. So I'm going to leave that right, like, well, I can also from here say apply material to the frame, and I'm going to apply aluminum. Same as what we had on the doors. So I don't have any aluminum here, and I don't have any aluminum here either. So I don't have many options here. I'll have to Okay, don't worry about it for now. Let's just leave it like that. Okay, so now I have the frame there. And if I go to a 3D view, you will see the frame of the door, right? Now, what you notice here, the frame is not the same thickness of the wall. So I don't really like that. I think the frame should be the same thickness of the wall. So how can I change that? I can go back and change the start and end of the extrusions to make it thicker, but I don't know exactly what that thickness is. So I'm gonna have to be guessing here until I get the right thickness. Because if I change this, for example, to -2, see how it becomes thicker? But I'm not sure what is that thickness. So another thing I can do is, for example, go to a reference, like a floor plan, and now I can see my frame here, and I can see my wall. So if I go and pull these arrows, I can change the thickness of that extrusion. See? And when I let go that little arrow, this lock symbol shows up, and if I click on it, I'm locking that frame of the window to that plane or to the face of that wall, which means that if by any reason the thickness of the wall changes, the thickness of my frame is going to change as well. So basically the frame is always going to be the same thickness as the wall. Okay? So I'll do it on the other side and do the same thing. Now my frame is the same as the wall. You see? Alright? So I want to do something else here now. And I want to, for now, let's just model the glass. We'll go to the exterior elevation again. And this time, let's use the extrusion command again, because I'm just going to create a pane of glass, which is a very simple rectangle. So the easiest command to use is a solid extrusion. So I come here again, and I basically do the same thing I did before. The work plane should already be reference plane, centered front to back, so I don't need to change that. I'm going to sketch the glass, and when I sketch that rectangle, you see how all these locks show up? So it's giving me the option of locking that glass to the frame, meaning that my glass is always going to be the same size as the frame. If I change the size of the frame, the size of the glass is going to change as well. So I want to lock all those guys, and then change here these values from minus 0.0 inches to plus 0 inches. So I'm gonna have a 1 inch thick pane of glass, okay, which is probably too thick. So let's change this to 1/4 and 1/4, so that way we have only 1/2 inch of thickness. And then now I have my glass there. Okay, now I want to apply material to that glass, so I select the glass, and in the properties I change the material to glass. Okay, there. If I change the visibility here to consistent colors, I can see my window there with the glass in a different color and the trim on the outside. Right? Okay, so now let's see what type of windows we have in this family. So we come here to family types, and as you can see up here, there's nothing here. So I don't really have any type in this family. So I'm gonna create a new type. How do I do that? I click here on this symbol that says new type, and I'm gonna call it the size of the window, right? But also, well, yeah, let's just name it the size of the window. Let's say this window is gonna be, I'm gonna use any value for now, 24 by 48 inches. So this would be the width and this would be the height. So it's 24 wide by 48 high. So what that means is that my height here, the height parameter has to be 4, which is already 4, and the width has to be 2. I have 3, so I have to change it to 2, right? And then all these other parameters, you guys can change it if you want. For example, the trim width, it's set as 3 right now. Let's change it to 6. Okay? So now I have one type. So look what happened to my window now when I apply those changes. See how it becomes smaller and the trim became wider? That's because I changed these parameters here. So if I change the width to 3 again, it goes wider, right? So now we have a window here that's working, and we can use it now in our project. Okay, how do we load this family into our project? Well, it's right here. I can just load it, or I can load it and close it. So because I'm done with it for now, I'm just gonna load it and close it. It's gonna ask me if I wanna save it. I'm gonna say yes. And now I have that window available in my project. And as you can see, it's already in the window command and ready to be inserted. Okay, so I'm gonna hit escape for now because I'm not ready to insert it. So let's see what type of windows we need here. We need, this means, these labels here, this means the width and the height of the window, and the P means that it's a picture window, while the C means it's a casement window. So that's basically all we have from this project, hopefully, yeah. So picture windows are just those windows that you can't open or do anything. They're just like glass and that's it. And the casement ones are the ones that you can open like a door, basically. Kind of have inches on one side, and then you can crank it open, right? So for now, I think the family that I just created is only, let's say, a picture family, right? So how about if we created now a new family that we call casement? Let's do that quickly here. So here we have the one that we just created, and I'm actually gonna rename it to EHTC picture windows. All right, so how can I just create a new family for the casement window this time? So I can come here to my browser and right click on that one that I have, the picture one, and say edit. And when I do that, it's gonna go back into that family. So now that I'm here, I can save this one as a new family and call it, instead of picture, call it casement, right? Casement window, and then save. Now to make this window different from the picture one, what I'm gonna do on the exterior elevation, I'm just gonna add some lines to this window representing the opening of that window, so that when we see it on an elevation view, we see those lines and we know it's a casement, and we know what like on what side the hinges of the windows are, or anything else, right? So it's very common in architecture to show casement windows with such lines. So I'm going to show you how we do that. This time, because we're adding lines, we're going to go to annotate instead of create. Because under create, we can only create, let's say, real like components, like extrusions and stuff like that. But if we just want to add lines, we go to annotate. And under annotate, we have this command here called symbolic lines. And now I have multiple type of lines here to select from. And I want to use, in this case, this one called opening projection, because it's exactly meant for what I want to do. I want to show the opening of that window on a projection view, right? Which is an elevation view. So I select that one, and I'm just going to draw this line here and this line there. And that means the hinge of this window is right here on this side, and it's going to open, like, you know, this is the side that's going to open, right? So that's just a very basic representation of a casement window. And for now, it's the only difference that we're going to have between the picture and the casement window families. Okay? Let's see what else we have here. Yeah. Okay, so let's load it now into a project. And where did I save all those? One second, I'm trying to figure out where I saved those. Huh. How come I'm not seeing them? Oh, of course, yeah. Yeah, there we go. So we have now casement and where's the picture window? I haven't saved the picture window. Okay, I'm just saving all these new window families, okay? All right, good. So now we have the two window families in my project, so I can start inserting all those windows. All right, so let's start. We go to architecture again, and this time we're gonna use the window command. And first, we pick the window that we want to insert. So let's see what kind of window we need for here. We need a 24 by 60 picture window. I believe I don't have that one. I have a 24 by 48. So what do? I just create a new type, right? Or this time, I can actually just rename the one that I have to 24 by 60. And then change the height to 60, and that's it. So now I have a 24 by 60 there, and I'm gonna place it there and here. And now I need the casement one. And again, I don't have the 24 by 60 in casement, so I'm gonna just change this one 24 by 60, and the height is 60. And now I have the casement one. And let me just show you quickly the difference between those two. You see there? My casement one is showing those lines, which are wrong, by the way, because they're not properly done. So let's fix that right away. Let's go edit that family and go to the exterior elevation. And now, if I want to make sure those lines are always properly drawn in the window, I have to, see, lock them to that side of the window as well. Same way we did with the frame and all the other things in the window. But right now, for center here, I want to create a plane. So I need to make sure these lines are always in the center of the window. Otherwise, when we change the sizes, they become all screwed. So that's why I just created this new reference plane. I just copied this one and pasted it here. And then I'm gonna attach those lines to that plane. And I'm gonna do something here that you've never probably seen. I'm gonna use the dimension command, and I'm gonna dimension that new plane, right, from the bottom at the top. And when I place that dimension there, there is a symbol here that shows an EQ. That means equal. If I click on that symbol, those two dimensions are going to become the same. So before, they were 2.7 and 2.5. Now they're both 2.6. If I show that, see? So that means if I change the height of the window now from 5 to 4, look what happens. That plane, it's always going to be the same distance from both the top and the bottom. No matter what height the window is, that's always going to be in the center. Same distance, because I have this equality command here that's constraining this plane to be always at the same distance between these two. Okay? So that way, my lines now are always going to be correct, because they're always going to be here in the center, and here they're locked to those two reference planes.
So
Yeah.
can I see the lock here?
Where?
On the reference line. Chooses to
No,
line.
well,
Oh.
because these are lines. When they are actually touching one of those planes, they're always going to follow those planes. So it's not like you don't really need to use the lock symbol and click on the lock. So that's something I didn't want to go into that detail. But when we use lines in families, the lines, when I'll show you. When the ends of the lines are touching a reference plane like this one, they're always gonna say follow that plane. Okay, so like the same happens here, because this line is right at the intersection of these two reference planes, so that's always gonna stay there. Okay, that's a question that Winnie here had. I just want to make sure you guys understood that. Okay, here I have my 3 windows that I just placed, and they all have the trim on the exterior, right? Okay, let's just insert a few more windows and then move on to something different. So here I need a 30 by 60 picture and 1 casement. So I don't have the 30 by 60, so this time again I duplicate the 24 and rename it 30 and change the width. And I'm gonna do the same with the picture. There. So that's let's say that's it for, well, let's just put some of them here too, just to make it the same, basically. And let's throw a smaller one here. So I'm creating a new window type here for casement. That's going to be 30 by 30. And I'm going to put it here in the kitchen just by the sink. All right. So how can I make sure all these windows are placed at the same distance from the center of the windows? So I can just dimension them, right? From, if we go to annotate, dimension aligned, and then you see how the center of the window becomes blue. So you click on that one and click on the next one and on the next one, right? And now what do? If we hit the equality symbol here, then that means this window here is always going to be the same distance from this one and this one, no matter what I do. For example, if I move that one, see, the middle one is always going to stay at this, like the middle between the other two. If I deleted that dimension though, Revit is going to ask me if I want to keep that constraint or not. If I say okay, so I won't see the dimension anymore, but it's still, if I move the windows, the middle one is still going to be constrained, right? Because I didn't delete the constraint. But I can delete it now, selecting this and hitting delete. And then now this middle window is no longer constrained to the other two. Okay? So let's just place those windows in a proper fashion here. So let's say this one. So what I did right now, I just again used the dimension command and dimension all the center of those windows. And then when I select one of them, I can change those dimensions to whatever I want. So I'm going to say this one is going to be 2 foot 6 inches from that face of the wall. And this one is going to be 3 feet from the other one. And this one, again, 3 feet from the other one. Right? So I can leave the dimensions there if I want, or just delete them from now. So I'm just going to delete them. Okay? And let's do the same for the other side of the other house. So again, dimension all the windows first, and then select each one of them and change those values. This 2.5 from here, 3, and 3. Right? That way we have the same on both sides here. All right. Okay, so what can we do right now? Select the window. Okay, so you remember when we created this window the first time, we changed how we control the visibility of the trims. So let's do that again, just to refresh that. So let's select one of the windows and right click on it and say Edit Family. So now this time I want to apply a parameter here so that I can turn on and off the trims as I want. Right? So I select the trim, and here in the properties there is that visible parameter, and right now it is checked off, which means that the trim is visible because you guys saw it on the elevation, right? But if I apply a parameter here, I'll create a new parameter for that, and we're going to call it trims. We are going to call it, we're going to make it an instance parameter. So remember, if we select instance here, That means that we can change the visibility of that trim in any window individually without affecting the rest of the windows of the same type. If we selected type, so if we hide the window in the trim in one of the windows, it's going to be hidden in all the other windows of the same type. And I'm going to keep repeating this over and over because this is really important to know. Okay, so we're going to call it trims, and we're going to group it under visibility. So let's see what happens to my window now. You override it with its parameters, and now in the 3D view, let's flip all these windows to have the trim on the outside. Because when I inserted them, I didn't know whether they were inside or outside. So on the 3D view here now I can see. And remember, when you select a window, if you hit the space bar or the space key in your keyboard, it flips it from inside to outside. Okay? The same happens with doors. Look at this. Now I got the trim on the right side on this door. Right? So this one have all the trim on the right side. This one doesn't. And on the doors here now have them correct too. So now I have the windows, but now I'm able to hide the trims as I want. For example, if I want these 3 windows here, oh, this is a picture. Okay. If I want this window here to hide the trim, I can come here, and this is the parameter that I just created. If I uncheck that box, the trim is going to go, but it's going to go from this window only. If I look here, these other 2, which are the same type, they didn't go away. And that is because I selected a default parameter, not a type parameter. Let's do now the same to the picture window family. Let's edit the family and apply a parameter to the trim. Call it again trims instance and grouped on the visibility. Okay? And now we're able to do the same thing with the picture windows. So what I'm trying to do here is getting rid of all the trims in the back of the house. There, see? So now the windows in the back don't have the trims, and the windows in the front do have the trims. Okay? Good. Alright, so it's almost break time. So I just want to do something quickly here. Let's go to the door family now. And let's edit that family for a minute. And now I want to apply some parameters to the trim of the door. So we did this already, so it's going to be already here. But if I wanted to change the width of that trim, I need to add parameters to that trim, right? So right now we have a parameter called exterior trim width, which is 4 1/4 inch. Let's see what happens if I change that to 6 inches. Good, nothing happened. So that means that parameter is not applied to anything right now. And, oh no, sorry. Sorry, it's just I probably used the wrong one. because there's a trim with exterior. If we change that to 4, yeah, it does change. All right, so I don't know. I think this door we created last class, so I might have created a parameter when I didn't really need to create one. So I'm gonna delete this one, okay? So to delete a parameter, you can just click on the parameter, and over here, there's a red cross here, we delete it. Oh, sorry, no, never mind. That's to delete the type. Sorry, my bad. I just didn't want to delete the type. I want to delete a parameter. So you click on the parameter, and down here, that's to delete the parameter. Okay, it's going to ask you if you want to delete it. Yes. But I'm also going to delete this one here, so that you see how to create it again. So now, I'm not able to change the width of that trim because I don't have any parameter to change it. So to do that, I'm going to come here, edit the sweep of that trim, and then select the profile and edit the profile. Go to that floor line view, and here you see this dimension that we added last class. This is a dimension that I'm going to use to add a parameter for the width of that trim, right? And also we make sure that this line is here, locked to that, so we can lock it here. So that means this line is always going to be here, no matter what size the door is. It's always going to go right next to where the door starts. And then with this dimension, we are controlling the location of this other line. So if we wanted a trim to be 6 inches wide, so we need that dimension to be 6. If we wanted it to be 8, well, we change that dimension to 8, and then the trim becomes 8 inches wide. So I'm going to apply a parameter to this dimension. How do we do that? Select the dimension, and up here on the label, we can select a parameter that's already existing in the family. But right now, because I deleted it, I don't have any for the trim with exterior. So I'm going to create a new one over here, and I'm going to name it trim with exterior, right? And this time, I want it to be a type parameter, because I want all the doors of the same type to have the same trim. Okay? And then group these dimensions already. So there. Now I have a parameter to control that. And I also have a parameter here to control the thickness of that. So if I change that parameter, the thickness of the trim changes. So, and I have it here already because remember we created this family in the previous class, right? Otherwise I'll have to add the dimension and then assign the parameter to the dimension. So let's see how that changes. With exterior, let's change it to 6 now, and hit apply, and see the trim becomes smaller, right? There is this parameter here called trim with interior. We don't really have a trim on the interior right now of the door. If you look at the 3D view, see, there is no trim, right? So I think we could quickly, before we go for break, go to the interior elevation and create a trim for the inside of that door right now. And this time, we're going to do it by creating an extrusion instead of a sweep. This is easier to do. So let's do extrusion here. And let's set the work plane to we don't have a real good one, but if we don't have one that we could use, we can always select here, pick a plane, then hit OK, and then in the model, you see you can select planes. So right now, if I click here, I'm selecting the plane of the wall. See how it becomes blue? that is the exterior or the interior face of that wall. So I can actually click on that, and I'm setting my plane to be on the face of the wall, which is what I want, because my trim is going to be attached right to that face of the wall. So it's good to have it right there. So I'm gonna sketch the trim by doing these 3 lines here, and see if I move it and put it back on that, I can see the symbol here for the lock. But I can also see it when I draw it. When I draw the line, see, I can click it right there, and that way that line is always going to be locked to that top of the door. And I can do the same for this one. There. Oh, it went away. But you can always select it, move it away, and move it back, and then lock it. Okay? So I'm going to draw all the other lines for that trim. Now, let's add some dimensions to that trim. So dimension the left side of the trim to that work plane, the right side to this other one, and the top side to this one here. So I have the 3 different dimensions there. And I'm gonna make them all 3 inches, so that my trim is 3 inches all around. I select this line and change this value to 3. And do the same for the other 2. Sorry, select this line now and change this one to 3. So now my trim is 3 inches on the 3 sides. What can I do now? I can select these 3 dimensions and add a parameter to them called trim with interior, right? So this parameter is already in the family, so I don't need to create it. I just need to assign it to those 3 dimensions. And when I do that, see what happens? My trim became 6 inches on the 3 sides. I finished the extrusion, and boom, I have my interior trim. But look how thick that trim is. That's horrible. I don't want that. So to change that, I'm actually gonna go to the floor plan, okay? And this time, I'm gonna create a new work plane by copying this one here. Just copy it. Sorry, no, you can't copy that one, sorry. So you go to create, and there's a command for reference planes. So you create a reference plane and draw a line like that, okay? So now I have that reference plane, and I'm gonna dimension it to the interior face of the wall. Same way I've been doing all this. And when I do this, I'm gonna assign to that dimension the parameter called trim projection interior. And that's gonna become 1 inch because that's the value of that parameter. And now, look, I'm gonna select my trim, which is super thick, but it's an extrusion, so I can grab one of these arrows, or this one in this case, and drag it and put it wherever I want. And if I put it right on top of that new reference plane, I'm able to lock it. And now my trim is gonna follow that plane wherever it goes. If I change this parameter to 2 inches, the plane goes to 2 inches, and so does the trim. Did you see that? Let's look at it on a 3D view. There. I'm gonna open my types, and I'm gonna change the projection of the interior trim from 2 to 1/2 inch. Look. See? Now it's way thinner. Okay, that's what I wanted. But also I want that interior trim to be only 3 inches wide. So I go to my types again and trim with interior, 3 inches. So the interior trim is smaller than the exterior trim. There. The only one thing I'm missing here now is to apply the projection for the exterior trim. So I can do the same thing. I can copy this reference plane, right? And I can dimension it again to the other face of the wall, and then assign the parameter trim projection exterior to it. And now I select, well, sorry, yeah, I didn't remember that the exterior trim, we did it as a sweep. So because the exterior trim is a sweep, I cannot do the same thing I did with this one. Remember that I could drag this? For this one I can't because it is a sweep. So sweeps work differently. So to adjust the projection of that window, of that trim, I can edit the sweep, right? Edit the profile, and then I have that parameter already there, right? But I can still change it if I want it. To 1.5, for example, and then it's gonna make my trim thicker. Okay, that was just a quick overview again about families and parameters. So let's just stop here for the break. And when we come back, we are gonna just go through a couple more steps here, and then the rest of the class you guys are gonna work on the upper floor of this house. All right? So go have your break, and we'll be back here in 15 minutes.
Yes, I have a question.
Sure. Actually, let me just stop the recording here quickly. Oh, frick, I didn't.